Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, a 42-year-old woman has had a lucky escape after her car slid off a dirt road and down an embankment. Emergency crews worked to free the woman from her vehicle, winching her to safety.
The final moments of a mammoth mission. Police and fire rescuers working alongside paramedics at the scene of a single vehicle crash at Claremont this morning.
This particular terrain is extremely steep. The first responders that came across her, it was extremely lucky that they did come across her when they did, as the vehicle was still moving. When they got to her, it was still sliding. Authorities
say the sole occupant of the car, a woman in her 40s, was extremely lucky. She only received relatively minor injuries as a result of the accident.
The female was leaving her residence when she was coming down the road, and her handbag has fallen off the front passenger seat. She's bent over to pick up the bag and has lost control of the vehicle.
With the car ending up dozens of metres down the steep embankment, it was a difficult and delicate recovery operation.
There are obviously lots of things that can go wrong, especially in a roping terrain. Everyone's trained, everyone knows what they're doing, and we take it step by step very carefully.
EBONY, ABBLITT, 7 Tasmania News.
A Sandy Bay home that stood for more than a century has been destroyed by fire in a matter of minutes. Authorities were called to Quayle Street around 1 o'clock to find the derelict property being ravaged by a suspected arson attack.
Flame licking weatherboards, smoke billowing out of broken windows. A sad scene on Quayle Street this afternoon. This home well alight when fire crews arrived just after 1:30.
Firefighters entered through the front door and did a good job to extinguish.
Multiple crews fought for half an hour to bring it under control, but the fire had quickly taken hold and the 1915 structure will have to be torn down.
I just came out of the house and saw there was just, fire brigade, police, everything there, and it was just, being put out. Pretty big scene.
Thankfully, no one was inside at the time. The house is classed as vacant, but locals say it had different groups of squatters living there over the years.
I know there's a lot of squatters who sort of moved through it. I said it's sort of been led to run into disrepair. I don't know, I find it pretty grim seeing the state it's in, and even this happening to it now is a shame.
Neighbours watching on disappointed to see this property with so much potential up in smoke. At one point, the intensity of the blaze was so fierce it was threatening the neighbouring property. Fire crews had to implement an exposure line to stop it spreading any further. As well as dealing with a potentially dangerous fire, crews also faced with another threat.
There is concern about asbestos, so the guys are taking precautions, doing all their decontamination procedures to minimise the chances of being affected by it.
Police say 2 youths and a young adult have been arrested this afternoon. Louise Huber, 7 Tasmania News.
And while the federal government is promising to fast-track the underwater electricity cable from Tasmania, there's still no answer as to who will pay for it. The project is being spruiked as a boost for our state's renewable energy sector, but it would also benefit other states.
This underwater cable, Basslink, Tasmania's only energy connection to the mainland. A second cable, promised for years, now set to be fast-tracked as part of the country's COVID recovery plan.
I welcome the Prime Minister's announcement today to identify Marinus Link, our second interconnector, as a priority project for the federal government.
It means a fast-tracked approvals process, speeding up the time before construction can proceed. UPC Renewables is behind plans for the controversial Robbins Island wind farm near Smithton. It says the second cable will boost the prospects of renewable energy projects.
Longer term, absolutely. One of the issues that the team in Canberra have struggled with is resourcing and timeframes to meet their legislative timeframes, so it would be beneficial to all developers.
Opponents say the approvals process shouldn't be rushed, concerned about the impacts more wind farms will have on our environment.
It's going to threaten a whole range of bird species. It will threaten the habitat of rare and endangered ground-dwelling species, some of which are extinct on the mainland, and it's going to have a huge visual impact.
Further concerns remain about the underwater cable, including who will foot the bill.
It will mean more jobs in Tasmania, which is a good thing. The questions that still remain around Marinus is who's going to pay for it and how the project is going to be delivered.
If the Prime Minister wanted to help Tasmania and if he really believed in the Marinus Link project, he would have provided some money. Instead, what we've got is hot air and not a single brass razoo for Tasmania.
We've always said Tasmania would only pay its fair share and no more. Let's be very clear in terms of the fair cost allocation. That's all being worked through at COAG Energy Council. There'll be a further meeting in September this year. They're progressing well.
Ebony ABBLITT, 7 Tasmania News.
A large-scale search has failed to find any trace of missing Northwest man Scott Murphy. Our reporter Tom Johnson has more on today's developments. Good evening, Tom. Hopes of finding him alive appear to be fading.
Yes, good evening, Kim. That does seem to be the case. We're now approaching 3 days since Scott Murphy went missing. He was last seen on Castro Road, south of Ulverston. Today, the search resumed and it has been a big operation. Police say ATVs, helicopters, motorbikes, people on foot, even horses have been involved. The search team covered 15 square kilometres, but there's no sign of Mr Murphy yet. Those on properties in the area are being asked to check their sheds and outbuildings, but people are being discouraged from joining the search party.
Unfortunately, because of the way the terrain is, we're very limited in what we can use. We have, obviously, search and rescue is a very specialised area of training. We have had people injured whilst we've been out here on this search. We can't manage an influx of members of the public who we can't guarantee are actually qualified to do the work.
Scott Murphy is described as being in his 40s, dark hair and with a usually unshaven appearance. The search will resume at first light, Kim. Hopefully better news tomorrow.
Oh, let's hope so. Not great conditions though, is it, Tom? Thank you very much. Well, a Launceston man who robbed a teenager in 2009 fled the state and was then arrested when he returned for a funeral last year has finally learned his fate. Patrick Charles Kimblery was sentenced to 12 months home detention in Georgetown for his role in the crime. Mr Kimblery, who was 23 at the time, and a 17-year-old accomplice broke into the victim's Rochely home, held a knife to his throat and stole firearms, knives, cash and an Xbox. In handing down his sentence, Justice Pearce said the now 34-year-old did not pose a significant risk to society and home detention was more appropriate than jail time. The Tasmanians can dust off their hiking boots and venture into national parks unrestricted in the latest easing of coronavirus measures. It comes as the government launches a multi-million-dollar visitor centre in one of the state's prized tourism hotspots.
Postcard-worthy scenery, wildlife and single-figure temperatures at Cradle Mountain. Now we can experience it all once again.
Today we're reopening officially Tasmania's parks and reserves right across the state.
A return to the outdoors after 3 months cooped indoors. The shutdown of parks to stop the spread of coronavirus, not overkill, according to the government.
One way of doing that was to put the parks to sleep for a period of time and encourage people to stay close to home, which they did.
The expiry date of parks passes have been extended by an extra 3 months, while overnight hikes like the Overland Track have new restrictions in place to adhere to social distancing. But before you step foot on the unforgiving trail, you'll first stop here. The new state-of-the-art visitor centre, nearly a decade in the making, today officially opened.
I think overnight we've almost gone from third world infrastructure essentially to best in class, and I suspect it's probably one of the best facilities in the country already.
We get 300,000 people through here each year, and we needed a facility that could cater for those sorts of numbers, and this is basically future-proofing Cradle Mountain for the next 30 years.
Construction is also underway on a new viewing platform at Dove Lake. It's due for completion next year, but the highly anticipated cable car is still a long way off. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian animal welfare organisations are issuing warnings to those heading back to work to ensure their pets don't become distressed from a change in routine. There are tips to keep tails wagging and prevent nuisance and destructive behaviours.
This is Pooch Paradise, a daily holiday home where every pup's needs catered for and they're surrounded by canine friends.
They love to play with the sticks, tug of war, run up and down these ramps.
But that's not an option for everyone. Experts concerned many Tasmanian pets won't be impressed as their owners start returning to work after 3 months of constant companionship.
Suddenly we're getting back out and socialising and our dogs are being left at home alone and being isolated.
Warning, a dramatic change in routine can be distressing for both animal and owner.
If a dog gets separation anxiety, they can either howl or bark, and that's just minimal. The main thing is some dogs will tear apart houses, they will bite through doors.
A daytime visit could keep them happy.
We also do a dog walking service, so that breaks the dog's day up. And we do boarding, of course, overnights.
Dogs and other animals are just like people. They like routines. We need to make sure that we get them to understand that things have changed a bit and work with them specifically to recognise that.
Ensuring there's enough activities to do safely at home is crucial.
You can use your dog's daily diet of food to provide various kinds of enrichment, keep them entertained and out of trouble while you're at work.
Our pets are our best mates and we need to recognise that and give them back the reinforcement and the love that they give us.
Louise Hobart, 7 Tasmania News.
The delay to the Tokyo Games has had a silver lining for a Tasmanian Olympian. Javelin thrower Hamish Peacock was set to miss the Games after injuring his shoulder. Now he's warming up for a second shot at national selection.
At the Domain, Hamish Peacock is back practising his run-up after his run-up to the Tokyo Games seemed all but ruined when the javelin champion ruptured his pectoral in March.
I was actually throwing and I just planted a bit wrong with my sort of front foot and then flipped over and fell straight on my chest.
The diagnosis was devastating. Peacock would miss 6 months of training, ruling him out of the Tokyo Games until the pandemic pushed the Games back to 2021.
If there is a good time to get injured, it appears to be this time for me.
Unable to throw for a few more months, Peacock has adapted his training to stay fit. He admits he's anxious about testing his shoulder.
I haven't thrown a javelin yet, so that's going to be the real test, and that's probably as much a mental thing as a physical thing, just the confidence to relax and just let it happen.
He'll be throwing in time for Olympic qualification in December, not one to feel pressure from anyone but himself. Peacock is determined to better his performance from Rio 2016, where he threw 6 metres short of his personal best.
I was disappointed in Rio, but just reflecting back on it, you always got to just sit back and at least reflect on your accomplishments.
The break giving the dual Commonwealth Games medalist perspective on just how many things need to go right to reach the mountaintop.
When you're in the moment, you sort of take it a little bit for granted, what it took to get there and how all the things that had to work.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Temperatures sat above average today, but I don't think we can call it a magic day weather-wise. Hobart 16, Burnie 15, Launceston and Devonport 14, 18 the high at Bushy Park, Friendly Beaches and Grove 17, King Island and Ouse 16, St Helens and Flinders Island 15 today, Lowhead 14, Strawn 13, best rainfall in the period to 9 a.m, 70 millimetres at Mount Reid, and today to 3 p.m, Mount Reid again, 15 millimetres. Now that rain coming from the low cloud over the state, high winds rippling the pattern as well as it swept through. More low cloud over the southern states of the nation with unstable air to our west. A trough brought cloud to north-east Queensland and off over the Tasman. Tomorrow a front will cross Tasmania. A strong high remains over central Australia. Pretty windy our way, northwesterly at 20 to 30 knots, reaching 40 knots and even stronger over southern waters. A southwesterly change later and swells to 8 metres. A severe weather warning for damaging winds over the south, east and parts of the north. A gale warning for all coastal waters along with the inland lakes. A strong wind warning for the southeast inshore waters as well. We have a sheep graziers warning and a bushwalkers alert also in force for areas around the state. 15 for Hobart tomorrow, showers developing, wind picking up, 13 the high for Adventure Bay, very windy also with a bit of snow for Tarraleah, a top of 10. 14 the high for Launceston, showers clearing later in the day, 14 for Devonport and also Bridport with a similar forecast. Burnie expecting 13, a showery windy day, same for Strawn and 13 the top, 14 for Marrawar. And for St Helens, a top of 15, a few showers developing, 16 the top for Swansea and Whitemark on Flinders, very windy as well and 15 degrees and a shower. Wednesday now, snow to 700 metres. A cool day with a shower over the west and far south. Partly cloudy on Thursday, a possible shower over the northwest, and on Friday a late shower over King Island and the northwest again, otherwise fine and partly cloudy. 22 in Perth tomorrow, a shower easing from Adelaide. Late showers for Melbourne, sunny and 21 in Sydney. Brisbane looking for 24. Cloudy at the moment. Hobart 13 degrees, 12 degrees in Launceston, Devonport cloudy and 12 degrees as well. This cold front, Kim, is going to bring snow to 500 metres overnight in the early hours of tomorrow and snow clinging to the mountain tops over the next couple of days as well.
That's your news for this Monday. Good night.